Hello, 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 and welcome to the Cheap Seats. Thank you very much for joining us again this week. This is our bite-sized portion of the Cheap Seats. We are now going to go into a discussion again, continuing with the discussion from yesterday about what teams need in this transfer window. If you want to know more about what we spoke about, the top four and what they need, please do check that episode that aired yesterday. And obviously now today we're talking about the other teams that are hoping to either make the European spots or even just punch it into the top four. As Dean says, Spurs are currently top four because they're one of the four unbeaten teams. And so we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be discussing what they need. I think these teams need a lot more help. So we're going to start with the team in the top four, Dean's favorite, my nemesis. We're going to talk about Tottenham. When I look at this Tottenham side, Dean, without any of my blinders on, there are a couple of things I would consider. That is Harry Kane replacement should Harry Kane leave. I don't know if he's going to stay or whatever it is, or somebody. I don't think Carlos Vinicius, I think that's his name.
He's gone back to Benfica, so yeah.
Oh, okay. So then you don't have anybody behind him, but Son is a capable number 9. And then the other thing that I was thinking about is possibly another midfielder. I think Dele Alli playing deep is lovely. I love it. But go get somebody else. If Ndombele is going to leave, go get somebody of quality in there. And then also a right back. I love Jaffa Tanganga. He isn't a right back. I just see Callum Chambers whenever I see him. And we all saw what Brentford did to Callum Chambers. We don't want that to happen to Jaffa Tanganga because he's I like him. He's the star of all or nothing Spurs. But because you're a Spurs person, what does your team need?
So the issue with Spurs is a lot of it hangs on what happens with Harry Kane. If Harry Kane moves on, we need to fill in a lot more holes than if he stays. And even having said that, if he stays, it's not going to be for another 5 years. It's probably max 12 months because the guy's going to have the same scenario next year. So I anticipate Kane to stay, which is why my biggest point of improvement or where we need to look is that creative midfielder. We need a playmaker. We need someone that's going to move that ball from defense to attack very quickly because at the moment it's just not there. And we had the likes of Christian Eriksen before who used to play that role, and we just don't have someone like that. So ideally, and given the problems that Barcelona have been in, I would go to Coutinho. That's who I would want to go have a look at signing. But the likelihood of that happening, not going to happen.
I am sincerely shocked. AB, you said, whoa, Coutinho.
That's that. You need a playmaker. And at the moment, Barcelona's problems, you could probably get him somehow cheaper. I don't see why you couldn't.
This is the weird part because last week Arsenal went and bought Martin Odegaard, but Coutinho is on the market. Like, what's going on? But anyway, that's my little problem. But yeah, wow.
So there's, I would say Coutinho, or there's that Hassim Aouar from, is it Lyon? I think it is. Yes. So probably we need someone that can move that ball because at the moment it's getting stuck between Højbjerg or Skip, and Son is bolting up the field, Stevie Bergwin's up the field, and Lucas, and there's just no one in between that's giving that sort of little tap and goes that can just move that ball. I see today we're interested in Adama Traore. We're going to submit a bid there, which again, it's just a front. Yeah, it's not solving the problem. So that's the problem that we need to solve. And if Kane moves on next year, the biggest, as much as we'll miss Kane's goals, it's Kane's creativity, which Spurs will miss more. So when Kane moves, you need that creativity. And that's the problem that I see. And we need a world-class creative midfielder. And I mean, trying to find one in the current market, tough, but we have to try and Paratici needs to phone all his Italian mates. He needs to phone every single team in Italy and try to find one. But until then, I won't be happy. But that's the biggest hole in the Spurs team. But we'll see what AB says.
AB, are there any needs of the Spurs team, or are they fine? They just need to find a Harry Kane replacement or a second striker, essentially.
No, it's such a good point that Dean raises because it all hinges on this 150 mil plus deal. But I think if you're gonna future plan, Nuno had some really good players in Wolves, so he's got Doherty over there for free. So I'd expect Doherty to be, that right wing back, and Nuno loves him and all of that. But what about guys like Daniel Podence or Ruben Neves, or what's that other guy?
João Moutinho. He's old, but he can work.
No,
he's
João
still...
Moutinho's old.
I take Neves in a heartbeat. Yeah, or
yeah,
Neto.
So you got 3 young players that don't touch Traore. Please, guys. He's just,
you need a coach who's going to turn Traore into a center forward. He needs to look at Lukaku and say, I want to do that.
But he has the skills, though. That's the thing. He can do that. And I agree with you. Nuno loves him, apparently, and that's why £40 million is the deal that's been spoken about. And it's very expensive for someone you don't need.
Yeah, you could get Neves for 30 mil. So, I would.
That's still even too much. Gee, Neves.
So I would go and spend 30 to 40 mil on Ruben Neves, take the win, and go with that. And then, if Kane was, if Raul Jimenez didn't have that injury last season, he would be the perfect stopgap for a Nuno Spurs. But we don't know this guy. He's wearing.
You don't know the post-injury.
We don't know. So,
and that's a really tough one for them. But so that's quite an interesting one. Let's move over to the other side of North London, the team that gives me headaches and nightmares. I've lost all my hair because of this team. Mikel Arteta's already spent 100 and God knows what, 133 million on players. I look at the squad and it looks just like last season's squad. However, the one thing that I've been crying out for is someone in that midfield who has more of a defensive ability. That is the need for this team right now. If I look at it, if you got a Bissouma or an Ndidi, I don't know why they'd come, but maybe Bissouma could. Also, just someone who's hard. And that's like everyone complains about Guendouzi. The thing about Guendouzi was that he was not afraid to go into tackles. He could seal off your defense because he went left to right. And I look at this team and I'm like, yes, Jacques is great, but he doesn't do... He's like McTominay. Sometimes he wants to be a forward. The other time, he wants to be a defender. And so I just need him to sit, but he doesn't want to. So I need a defensive midfielder, someone who can put Xhaka on the bench and play next to Thomas Partey, because I think in the instance that Thomas Partey's injured, like now, you essentially are still screwed if you want to play a back four. But that's for me. I want someone hard with Premier League experience. And then on top of that, figure out the right back situation. Callum Chambers is not the answer. Cedric Suarez, even though he had a better game than the left back, is somewhat of the answer, but he's a number 2. So go get yourself and use Hector Bellerin as the asset to get yourself a defender. I'm okay with Max Aarons. He can grow into the side because we're buying 23-year-olds anyway. I'm okay with pretty much anybody else who can play right back and play it well. I just want a more defensive right back because this team is pretty much irritating me when it comes to this situation as well. But that's Arsenal. But the only issue is they need to sell, just like we spoke on the last pod, yesterday's pod. They need to sell. Lacazette needs to go. Find a way to get rid of Reece Nelson, Eddie Nketiah. And once you do that, it will happen. But it is the transfer window week, so these things could happen. And I know Norwich is going to probably ask for like 50 million for Max Aarons, but got to pay if you want.
But why would you sell Lacazette? Wasn't he your top scorer last season?
We need the ability to because we spend 133. You need someone you can sell, an asset like Bellerin and Lacazette are great assets to sell to balance out the books, and also because you got Follow and Balogun, you've got Martinelli who started yesterday, so you want Aubameyang to be the primary target, and then you want between Balogun and Martinelli to give you goals. Well, quite frankly, Lacazette gives you 10 a season. If the two of them can clamor 5 between the two of them, that should be fine. But we need more goals, but we need someone to go out and someone to come in. And the two assets on the block that you can trade, that you can sell off, is Lacazette and Bellerin. And then also Eddie Nketiah, you just hope that he somehow finds some sort of a form. But those are the guys you can try and sell. But that's that. I think Arsenal's very weird because it looks like an NBA style rebuild. We've literally are buying in young players and we're giving them, I don't know how long it's going to be, 3, 4, 5 years to try and find their feet. I don't know if the fans are going to be happy with that, but you saw that yesterday because there was a whole lot of naivety on the field. Guys trying to help other people when you should let people burn at the stake. Poor Pablo Mari yesterday. He was just struggling and Kieran Tierney wanted to help him out and it was just a nightmare. But I need a veteran and I need a veteran in midfield. And I wouldn't mind paying money for Ruben Neves just so that we can get someone who has played in this league for a couple of years, who is a hard man. And I actually take Bissouma. I want Is Bissouma because he doesn't care. You know, he breaks legs if he wants to break legs. You just want to bring that hardness back because Ben White's a pretty defender. Holding's a pretty defender, even though he shaved off his head. Pablo Mari can't do anything right now. Gabriel's great. Gabriel is the guy you want to lead that defense, but he's injured half the time. And Willian's looking for a place in LA. So we don't have that. And Aubameyang's a pretty player. They're not hard. You want to bring that Arsenal of old. You know, that Roy Keane Vieira, that Arsenal that would never let you go. And it's faded in the Wenger era because you want pretty players, but you kind of want to bring them back.
Yeah, I don't know how you walk to Brighton with £50 million and you walk away with Ben White and you don't walk away with Bissouma. So I get I get all your points. My thing is, I see everyone can see what Arsenal's doing. They're buying young, waiting, and hoping that they then catch on 3-4 years from now. My only concern, and not that I'm concerned about Arsenal, but that can work. But how many batterings can they get until those youngsters' confidence is shot and they're not interested in staying around or sticking around playing?
It's gonna happen on Saturday. Man City's gonna lay another.
City's gonna give a lesson. You know, Lukaku literally made Pablo Mari look like he was in nursery school yesterday. And at what point do the guys just go, look, I'm done. Like, I just can't do this for another 2-3 years, you know? Odegaard, great buy. Ramsdale, not a great buy. But you look at some of those other guys that they have done, and the plans then, you can see it happening. But I agree with you. At what you know, pretty soon, Troops and DT and all those guys from Arsenal Fan TV are going to start storming the field if they don't start playing better. You know, it's that bad. So Arsenal, you can see they're doing the rebuild, but at the moment, I agree with you. You need one or two people that are strongholds that have the experience and can pull the youngsters together to carry on fighting, or else it's just going to be literally just a bunch of kids running around until they get tired and then they get sold to Real Sociedad in 2 years' time.
Arteta's building someone's house. That's my other problem. And I don't know if another coach would come into Arsenal and look at the squad and say, I want to take this job, because there aren't teams, there are players with a high ceiling, but you need functional Premier League players, and those are missing. And that's one thing I'd like in this last week is go get your 10 million, 15 million functional midfield functional players, because those are the guys that will carry you throughout the season. You know, those are the guys who are going to come in and say, hey, don't do that. Or if everyone watches Ted Lasso, a Roy Kent type, a little bit old, swears at you, but he knows that this is what you need. Yeah, you know.
Look at what Leicester did with Vestergaard. 15 million, established, hard Premier League centre back, and you know Leicester are going to do wonderful things with that guy.
No, and that's the thing. Speaking of Leicester, let's talk about them. They're looking to make it into the Champions League again Champions League this year. Where does Brendan Rodgers look to strengthen the squad? I look at this and I'm like, last year you got hit by Barnes and Madison's injuries and you had no other person coming in. We like Ayoze Perez, he's a nice player, but like, go find yourself a wing. Go find yourself a midfielder who can deputize for those two. I like Marco Brighton, move off of him, sell him, find somebody else. But go look and see, like, as we spoke about Ismail Assar works at Leicester. He actually starts at Leicester. And you can do some very crazy things. They've gotten Patson Daka, so maybe they might look to move off of Iheanacho. But for me, that's where I look at it. They've already sorted out their defensive issues. it's that. I think for me, it's that part of that team where you're like, if you add a little bit more quality, they become a better squad and they can ride through till the end of the season.
Yeah, the thing with Leicester is if they have a problem, they solve it within a week. Like you saw what happened to Fofana. The next day they were like, okay, we need to fix it. Boom, a week later, Vestergaard, done, So where there are problems, they will find solutions. And in that team now, they look pretty solid. It looks like Maddison is going to stay. So they fine there for now. Obviously, it brings about the depth conversation again. But from my point of view, and I don't know how long Rodgers still has at Leicester, but I think they're probably one of the better signings they could make is keeping Rodgers for longer than what he currently has, or I don't know how long he has, but keeping Rodgers at that club will help them get to that next stage. But they've then got an owner who solves the problems and a coach that works with the players he has productively and effectively and gets them to that next level. Obviously, the last 2-3 years, they've faltered at the end stage, but that has to start coming around sooner rather than later. And I think Rodgers is the guy to do it.
AB, this looks like a team for Jesse Lingard.
100%.
This looks like that's the vibe. I think if Leicester did that, it solves their problems and it gives them that longevity.
Yeah, he covers all those areas. You can play on either wing. You can play up front. You can play as a false 9, as a 10. He doesn't have to start every game. He's content with that. Man, just sign him. 25 mil, I think United would accept. Because Oli doesn't know what to do.
No, they'll wait for transfer deadline day, Dean. He'll go for 15. Don't worry.
Wow. I'll take Lingard for 25.
Oh, okay. So you want Jay? Okay. Maybe but that's the type of questions this window's been weird because guys have not gone off the table that should be going off the table. Like West Ham could use Jesse Lingard right now, and he showed last year. Like, why not pay for him? So yeah, it's really weird, but that's why we're having this podcast because this week things will change, and then next week we're gonna come back and be like, well, this is what happened. Who are the best signings of the window? Last team to talk about is West Ham. Do they look to bring Jesse Lingard back? Where do they need to look? I think they need cover for Antonio. I think the biggest thing that they need to find is a striker from God knows, I don't know where. Maybe the Czech Republic. Maybe that guy. Who was that guy at Euros? Schick. Patrick Schick.
Patrick Schick.
Yeah, he only scored like 9 goals last year for it was a German side. I think it's Hertha Berlin. But I think he's a good enough guy you put down. Might cost a little bit of money, but you need somebody who can sit bench and deputize for Antonio, because if Antonio goes down, the castle breaks.
And we've seen it before when Antonio gets injured. West Ham suddenly look like they can't score. So they need like that Iheanacho.
Steps in and then, he's there.
Look,
stop trying to sell your...
No, so I saw there.
What about Martial? What about Martial at West Ham?
How much would you sell Martial for? 50
million pounds.
30. So 50 on deadline day.
Yeah, I would sell Anthony Martial minimum 30 mil.
Minimum 30.
Would you pay someone to take Martial?
Did you watch him on Sunday?
Martial's terrible, guys. He doesn't move. So it's like...
But that's what West Ham needs. They just need a striker.
He is a West Ham player.
Get the ball in and pass it on to the wingers. And then he just gets back in the box.
I know, that guy is lacking confidence. Maybe we should loan him to West Ham. Maybe not. I mean, the last player we loaned to West Ham turned out all right. We still haven't sold
Just use West Ham as your development squad. Just loan them all the players.
Here's the thing. AB, here's the thing for you. Declan Rice for about, I'd say 30 plus you give them Martial. So that's like 60 in total with your valuation.
Jeez, like it. Easy. 30 mil plus Martial. That's deal of the century. Take it.
50 million and £1.
Yeah, I'll sign it right now for because United don't need Martial. You can take last season's squad, replace Sancho with Martial, you're done. You're fine. Dan James will play more. He deserves to play more. He works harder than anyone. Yeah, it's fine. Declan Rice fills a hole. Overrated, overpriced, but he fills a hole.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from the Declan Rices and the Tony Martials, thank you very much to the gents for joining. Remember to watch out for our FPL show, which is going to come out tomorrow, where we all, well, Dean and AB and myself discuss what we're doing for this game week, because it's a very interesting one, because a certain Romelu has come back in and he's tormenting defenses already. But from myself and AB and Dean, have a good day, good evening, and le sale cagajizo.